All right, I believe we're live. Thanks everyone for coming out to the virtual M365Conf. I'm Richard Campbell, one of the organizers of the event, and excited to be talking to Karuana Gatimu. It's like I fumbled your name there a little.
Karuana Gatimu.
Yeah, it's Gatimu. Yeah, Karuana Gatimu. And I only practiced it like 4 times this morning, right? Microsoft Director, Customer Advocacy Group for Microsoft Teams Engineer. You're the Teams lady.
Yeah.
But you're also, you take it we talked earlier really seriously about the sort of balance around collaboration. And I've got to tell you, I love your background. That is the best. What a great thing. What did this come from?
So we're doing a little holiday promotion with Microsoft Teams. So first off, thank you. Thank you for having me. That was a lovely introduction. I am the Teams lady, I suppose. I was the SharePoint gal before that. You know, I'm really the Microsoft 365 maven, something like that. I don't know. But this background is something that we're doing for the holidays in Microsoft Teams. So we just launched on our Teams blog a whole article about our custom backgrounds for the holidays, as well as how to host a holiday party on Microsoft Teams. You know, I don't know about you, but I think this has been a long year and I'm ready for a little fun. And so we launched some new backgrounds, and also we've got new holiday themed together mode backgrounds and all sorts of ways that you can use Teams to have a little fun. So we're excited about it. Go check out our blog and you'll find it out there.
That's awesome, and such a good idea to kind of embrace this thing that we had to do earlier this year, right. But now it's just become part of the routine of work. You know, in other times we'd be wearing like antler ears and things on our heads as sort of the equivalent, but this is a different level. This is another ability to do that.
It is. Now, if you want me to put my hat on.
I do. I absolutely do.
You know, I could just do that too. So fine. I'll do it.
Okay, you are all the Christmases then.
Well, but you know, the truth is, you're right. We did have to be in more virtual meetings and virtual events than probably anyone ever planned in their life this year. And truthfully, we know that there's such a thing as virtual event fatigue. It can be very stressful. And it's not sitting all day long, sitting in virtual meetings is not really what anybody had in mind for this year. But now that we're here and we've made it through this year, it's also important to use this technology to make sure we're actually connecting with people. You know, being a part of a team is not about the technology, it's about the people. And so how can we use Teams to reconnect? And we've been helping people with this all year long, but especially now at the holidays where it is, at least in the United States, yet another stressful time. You know, can we really try to come together? Because Teams, like all of Microsoft 365, like humanity, is better together, right? We're better when we make connections. We're better when we are really, you know, reaching out to each other. And I think that we can do that and have a little fun. So I'd ask everybody to go customize every meeting they're in, because you know what I noticed this week, especially, I just started using these custom backgrounds myself.
Right.
And I'd come to a lot of meetings where it's just a regular meeting. I mean, nothing special, not a holiday party, but I would come with my hat and my holiday background, and almost immediately, everybody would be like, wow. You know, and it changes the energy, right? It makes it a little bit more fun. It lightens the mood. It provides a little opportunity for conversation that has nothing to do with work, which I think people really miss. It's like the virtual hallway, right?
Yeah, and that's, I think the biggest thing is too much of these meetings we're thinking about the formal side of the meeting rather than the informal side of the meeting.
That's right.
And, you know, real work interaction is the water cooler talk, is the hallway talk, is the 10 minutes before we start the meeting talk. Yes. And I think so many of those things get missed these days. The customization part is interesting to me because in this span of this year, I think everybody jumped into our online collaboration tools all at once, and they fumbled their way through them, and we found some things and we played with them a while, and then it almost seemed like we dialed it back down again, that we got a little more form. It's like such a thing as too many blinky lights too.
Yes.
However, maybe we're at a more recent time now. It's like, it is holiday season and I need some bling.
Exactly. That's right. Look, if I am presenting if I was presenting to my leadership team inside Microsoft, I would show up just like this because they too need some fun.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, you have to be willing to bring your personality to the virtual world. And I think that can be very difficult. I think that's why people avoid turning their video on sometimes. Are self-conscious about it, about how they look or about their environment. But with the custom backgrounds or even being able to blur with using together mode and other things, it allows you to bring more of that personality and the human side of you into the workplace. And that's always successful in balancing the actual work itself. So we have an idea here that we've been really talking about: employee health and wellness. And health and wellness has to be balanced with productivity. And as we continue to do things like add meeting agendas automatically to Teams, integrate with the various well-being apps that are coming out, and help people have more effective meetings with a lot of the new meeting features, you're going to see this balance again, where the technology is really supporting the human activity rather than being the focus of the human activity. And I feel like that's an important shift that we're always thinking about here in Teams, but we're thinking about across Microsoft 365 with other tools as well.
So are there mechanisms to sort of be indicative of a more formal meeting versus a less formal meeting too? Like, I've gotten big on pinging a friend saying, hey, I'm going to go get the caffeinated beverage of my choice. Do you want to do the same? And let's just turn the cameras on. Yep. No agenda. Because normally I'm pretty big on agendas for meetings, but now I've realized one of my agendas is I don't have an agenda.
That's exactly right. And knowing to do that, making time and space for that is really important, because you can't assume that everybody has enough social connection right now. Even though we're all home with our families, maybe some people don't have a family. I happen to be home with my family and my 2 dogs, but I don't actually see them for the 12 hours a day that I'm sitting in this room in back-to-back meetings. So I really appreciate my work friends who reach out to me, and we do the same thing. We get our, beverage of choice, and we just hang out and connect, and have a coffee chat on Teams.
Yeah.
I also have made a huge effort to do that in my team meetings. I intentionally, for the first 10, 15 minutes of my direct team meeting, don't talk about anything. I do a round robin. I ask people how they are. I let people chat. And at first it was awkward, but now, people are more used to that. But there's a lot of
kind of a check-in there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I almost think we did that instinctually in like April and May when we really weren't sure how everyone was.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to kind of come back to that again. Like, how you doing now? Because definitely feel like we thought about sprinting in the spring, and we all get that it's a marathon now.
Well, and the impact, you can look at what's happened in education and the virtual education that we see happening and the impact of that. Some of it has been necessary. There's been some fallout, I'll call it, on teachers, on students, on parents, in terms of doing virtual education. And nobody ever intended to have kids out of school for such a long period of time. I think the new round of school closures in the United States, at any rate, is causing a great deal of stress on people. And we've learned a couple things. We've learned that teachers need IT support. We've learned that products like this and becoming a teacher is about teaching. Again, it's not about the technology, but how do we have the technology support that outcome? We know our kids need actual social interaction, which cannot be replicated online, but we're doing our best given the situation. Right. And we've also learned that, some democratization of internet access is necessary, because it's not fair to assume that every community has equal access to the internet and the kinds of speeds that you need to have a great video-based virtual classroom experience.
Yeah, it is astonishing to just consider this idea that, there's people all over the world watching this right now, and we do just expect it to work.
Yes, we do.
It's insanely complicated what's actually happening, but that taking it for granted, it's just another utility in our lives, like having clean water and electricity.
Right, exactly.
But those are all miracles, every one of them.
Every one of them is a miracle. And not everyone has equal access, and sometimes we forget that. right? To hardware, to internet connectivity, to a place where they can focus, depending upon the size of home that you live in. And so it's highlighting some of the inequities, but it's also giving us a great opportunity to use this technology in the classroom. I mean, what people have done in the education space, I think, is nothing short of heroics. You know, I've seen partners who work in that space, technologists, IT pros, the teachers themselves in the schools ramping on to these tools, ours and others, so quickly. It's really been, you know, a sight to behold.
And I'm still trying to figure out if this part of the struggle is them learning the tools that they'll get good enough that this will be efficient, or if this mixed in-person online model has simply got a higher level of overhead. That it is a harder way to teach. There's more labor to get the same comparable outcomes for your kids.
Well, I would argue that you get different outcomes. I don't think teachers and parents would say they're the same, because I believe that part of the outcome of being in a classroom is social interaction on the human level. So, but putting that aside, I do think that doing anything in the virtual world, frankly, takes more overhead. And I'm coming from my perspective as a virtual event producer. One of the other things that has changed my job so dramatically over the last year is how many virtual events I've produced or been the talent for, like Ignite. And of course, we've launched our virtual event playbook on adoption.microsoft.com. That's available for everyone to learn how to do virtual events. And we're continuing to put information out in that area. But that, to create an event just like this one that feels as engaging, that feels as dynamic, right, is a really high bar. I actually think virtual event production, whether it's a classroom scenario, an all hands, you know, with your executives inside a company, or here, like an online conference, I actually think it's harder and there's more overhead. Yeah.
I'm also starting to really want to explore where these virtual elements have superiority over in person, that we can do more. I mean, one of the advantages we have with everyone at home, or, you know, in their respective workspaces, we actually have more bandwidth available to us than we would have if we were all in a hotel room somewhere, in some conference center or anything like that. So in that sense, we have like the ability to do the workshops with all that horsepower. But I'm thinking about your background as well, like the visual entertainment, the different ways that we can engage online compared to what we can do in person. You drop that many sparkles on a stage, somebody's got to clean that up.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And here I can just do it all day long, and there's no pile of confetti around me. Although I'd kind of like a pile of confetti around me. I think that would be fun.
That would be fun too.
But I do think that's true, and I think that's been a hard transition that people are making as speakers, as presenters. So I'm lucky I have a theater background. So for me, speaking on a stage in front of a few thousand people, that's fun for me. I really, really enjoy that. I've had to learn how to change my presentation style, as now I'm having a relationship with a camera. And in this
which
case,
is odd by itself, right?
It is, you know, and at least in this case, you and I are actually physically talking. And so I'm getting feedback from you. But when I gave my sessions yesterday, right, people are not giving feedback in the same way. So I think it's difficult and a new opportunity for people who present. And I do think that there's a great opportunity for diversity and inclusion in your audience now. We saw it at Ignite, we saw it at Build, I've seen it at this conference and others, where people who would never get a chance to travel to our event get to participate because of this digital component. And that's why I think a digital component of physical events will continue in some shape or form going forward, you know.
I can't disagree with that at all. It is a broader reach. It is a different style that we're always going to be in a hybrid kind of mode. That it'd be nice. You know, speakers do like having an in-person feedback. It is challenging. It's a natural anxiety if you presented for a long time in front of an audience, that when you don't get an audience response, something's going wrong. Yeah, right.
If people are too quiet in my presentation.
Yeah, it's like, I'm dying here. Yeah. But I'm also appreciative of, I've had lots of different businesses where being able to work in my space for my individual contribution work, for my head down, grind out the code, write the story and so forth, very constructive. And then I have interactive time. So I think there's a lot of productivity to be had there. The ones I see suffering the most are the managers. that used to have an open door. We're able to walk from room to room, and now we're doing back-to-back calls all day. And the one thing they don't want to do in the evening is get on another call for a cocktail. Like, I've been on the screen all day.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to raise my hand. I'm one of those people. I'm usually on screen from 7:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. And when I am done, I do not want to go hang out with my girlfriends on their cocktail meeting. I actually don't. I cringe at the thought. Although I will say that I have made myself do it a few times, if only to maintain those relationships, because otherwise, how do I do that? I think that one of the things that we've done, and you'll see this on our Humans First page on adoption.microsoft.com, we've really tried to encourage people to have certain meeting best practices. So for instance, across all of Teams engineering, we start half-hour meetings 5 minutes late. So a meeting will start at 1:35 or 1:05. And if it's supposed to be an hour meeting, it's 10 minutes late. Then we do it at the beginning of the meeting, because if you try to end a meeting early, no one pays attention to that, at least at Microsoft. We'll continue to talk, because we know we have that hour. But if you start it late, it gives that breather, it gives that break. So you're not literally in back-to-back meetings all day long.
Yeah, because in real life, at least you'd be moving from meeting room to meeting room.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Just that 5 or 10 minutes between things to reset your mind.
It's very helpful, and it combats virtual meeting fatigue, which again, we talked about at Ignite. Satya showed the picture of your brain during virtual meeting fatigue. It is a real thing. So if you think it's happening to you, it probably is. And what you need are those breaks. And I will tell you, we do that. And another very important best practice is no meeting Fridays. So no meeting Fridays give you time for deep focus work. It's when I get to sit and think about things. I do my reporting, I do my writing. I can stare at the ceiling and really try to think about how the programs are working. There's things that you need uninterrupted time for to be really good at. Building solutions, for instance, and so no meeting Fridays are huge. And since we've instituted those two best practices, I've watched the meeting fatigue in my team and across engineering decrease. And my own as a manager is much better, because I feel like I have a breath before my next one-on-one with that employee, before my next team meeting, before my next stand-up, so that I'm coming to these meetings more focused and grounded, and then they're better.
Do you find you need to get up between meetings, like at least get out of the room, get a refresh of the drink? Like, I've also found if I don't take notes for each meeting, I lose meetings now, because they're almost too similar. That it's very tough to keep value from each of those meetings if I don't have good notes.
Well, I'm lucky that I'm getting to test some of the new features that we're building inside of our company to support that. So I have a lot of those things turned on, and be exciting when we can talk more about those. But we realize that the technology should be able to help you with that, right? And yes, I have my trusty pad here on my desk where I write some stuff down, but I need to be able to trust the technology to capture some of those items. And really help me with my own personal productivity. And so you'll hear more about that in coming months. Really excited about some of those things that we're going to be able to do. But yes, I actually go make myself do the stairs in my house in between each meeting, because I'm trying to keep my steps up, but also just to stretch and move.
Sure.
Because,
I didn't put tea down in my office so that I had to go upstairs to get it.
Yes, me too.
That's good for 10 flights of stairs a day. Like,
exactly.
Stuff will keep you alive.
That's exactly true. So I think that people are going to, these kinds of best practices, no meeting Fridays, starting a little late, giving those breaks, always publishing an agenda or being clear that there isn't one because it's a check-in. These are things that sound like they're nice to haves, but I believe that they are essential changes to our workday that need to happen to make sure that we can protect our employees. Right? We have to protect ourselves and our employees during this situation of really doing so much virtually. And it requires that we don't treat it as business as usual, because it's not.
Yeah, I don't know what the post-pandemic model even looks like yet. Still, because there's so much that we do like about this.
Yes.
That is working for us, even if it is too much.
Yes.
What that balance is going to look like this doesn't just end with a vaccine. That it's going to take time for all of us to decide how we want to work going forward.
I agree. And I think that I think every industry is going to attack that a little bit differently. We talk a lot in Microsoft about, navigating the now and building the future together. And, like I'm like every good Microsoft employee, I have a lot of slides in my back pocket. But what I love actually about working at Microsoft and why I work at Microsoft is that we really are working with people to make that a reality. We are absolutely supporting a variety of industries in thinking about how do they retool their businesses to navigate a post-pandemic reality. And it is going to be in phases, of course. And again, depending on where you are in the world, you're having a different experience. But that's also an issue for our global companies and customers that we support, because what's happening in the US or in different pieces of the US is not what's happening in Australia or New Zealand or, and so we have to help our customers rethink their business processes. Customer engagement is different, right? Curbside pickup was not something I ever did for my groceries. Now I do it every week. I always took my groceries to my mom who lives down the street. Now I make sure that they're delivered to her. Just everyday things have changed. And I do think that those types of customer interactions are going to continue to change. I also think that this is an awesome time for people as IT professionals. If you are not enjoying the work you are doing as an IT professional right now, I really think that you should, I always say, look up and look around. Because whether it's Teams or Power Platform or things happening in Azure, there's so much challenging, interesting work going on with AI and quantum computing. I mean, it's just a fun time to be a professional if you like solving hard problems.
Right. We're certainly exploring new things because the
absolutely.
Span of interest now is massive.
It is. And it's up to you. You can use a property like Microsoft Learn to do this little micro learning and see where your interest lies, right? And I think that that's really important because, one of the reasons I really love my job is I'm working in a space that I love. I love custom solutions. I love people and change management. I love collaboration solutions. I always have. So I get to bring all these things together in one place. It's kind of tailor-made for the kind of background I have, plus now the production work, which has always been in my space. But that's tailor-made for me. Other people can tailor-make a position and an area of interest for themselves that really leverages their history, their particular experience. Everyone has something to contribute right now. To this transition, to digital transformation, and to helping our communities, navigate what's going, build this new future.
I do appreciate wanting to build in some learning mechanisms into your week, too, right? Everything all right over there?
Yes, I just lost my hat.
All right. I was worried one of those balls was getting out of control, but
it was. Yeah.
the adding some learning time to your week and putting it on your schedule. Like I've been pressing against folks is how many things on your schedule are things others are asking of you versus what you're asking of yourself.
Correct.
Besides garbage day.
Yeah, right.
Blocking out a time to write, blocking out a time to learn, like having those windows so that they're allocated, so that people can't use them on you, turn them into something else.
That's right.
Also gives you a little sanity break too.
Oh,
I kind of want to write a macro that the moment someone books a meeting for me, for whatever reason, and times that I have available, the next 15 minutes is automatically blocked out.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. Well, one of the things I love about Outlook and about the workplace analytics and the work that we're doing is I turned on that ability for Exchange to automatically book focus times for me.
Right.
And I use that focus time and it'll go through my calendar and find the slots and just make them. And I really like that. Because I feel like it helps me. Now I have no meeting Fridays as well. So on no meeting Fridays is when I go to Microsoft Learn or I do my micro learning. There's also manager training we have inside Microsoft. There's all sorts of stuff you need to keep up on. And of course in Teams, there's a whole new set of features. I actually spend 30 minutes a week looking at our broader roadmap across all the spaces and then our sister teams so that I can, be up to date on everything that's happening, which is pretty difficult, I have to say. But yeah, taking that time for myself, I'm not good about it every week. Because obviously we all have things that come into our space that, you know, require our time, both personal and professional. But I do try to make that investment on a monthly basis. And I think that, you know, for me, I've been very lucky. Someone taught me early on to really be at the helm of my own career. And you know, I didn't just end up here magically. There was a lot of luck for sure, but there's been a lot of hard work and some planning on my part. You know, I knew I wanted to work in engineering at Microsoft. I knew I did, and I didn't know that Microsoft Teams was going to be created and create this, you know, uber perfect job. But you know, having those goals has been important to me, and it's been a step-by-step process. You know, I had a mentor once who told me that, you know, if you're not investing in yourself every week, then you're really investing in other people. And what you're doing is you're saying other people are more important than you. And if that's a conscious choice, then that's fine. But let it be conscious, not unconscious, right? Like, have some intention about it.
Well, I like your intentionality of your career too, because I do think a lot of people's careers end up being more serendipitous than planned. That it's just whatever happens, happens. But you know, you mostly pedal the bike. You only have to steer it a little. Yeah. So it's that taking a chunk of time. Maybe it's an hour on that meaningless Friday that says, am I going where I want to go? Am I working on the things I want to work on? Like that leadership of your career moment, and then making a little plan, one thing I'm going to do next week that bumps me towards goals I have.
Well, and I am the poster child for having the community in the Microsoft ecosystem support my career. You know, when I was reinventing myself and came into the SharePoint space a decade plus ago now, you know, I got involved in the SharePoint community. And that SharePoint community I found to be quite different than other technical communities I'd been in before. Around SQL or networking or just IT in general. It was so welcoming and so much fun. And the local community events, the user groups that I participated in, and then being able to blog and practice my speaking there, it was a tremendous career builder where I also got to have fun. And, you know, I do think it's important, if you're in this business as a technology professional, to think just a little bit about branding. What do people know you for? Right? Does anyone? And if they don't, then maybe you want to start writing. So there is a place, and I used to teach a course, branding for introverts, right? Personal branding for introverts. You can write, you can create videos, you can volunteer. You don't have to be the person doing the presentation on stage to be known for a particular subject matter area. And I was always the person that was about business value from SharePoint. Right. And I had technical skills to boot, and I wrote a blog about that for a long time. And I did speak at a lot of user group things. And that's how I progressively met people and built my career until I came inside Microsoft. And then I had to do it again inside Microsoft, right? Because you have to do this work inside and outside of your company. So it's a lot of fun.
There is a magic power in making a thing, whether it's a video or audio. I mean, I make podcasts or written word. You know, they're all asynchronous communication tools that are multiple, that as they get shared, they do more. So the commitment to make something, whatever the thing is that you like to make, I think is a big part of that. Get your ideas and put them into a thing so that others can consume them without it having to be directly from you.
Absolutely. And Donna Sakar, another one of these powerhouse evangelist folks inside of Microsoft, she always talks about do the thing, whatever that thing is, but do it, right? And so, you know, for a long time I wrote a blog. Now I have a show on YouTube called Coffee in the Cloud. And I'll tell you, that has turned into the de facto Better Together channel for Microsoft. But it started out as my side project. I didn't have any viewers. I didn't have any marketing. I didn't have anybody working on it but me on this side. And if you look at some of the old videos, you can tell. You can tell before I had a team, and now that I have a team of awesome people who helped me produce that show. But I did it because I liked it. But I had to let go of the idea that that the numbers mattered. I decided the thing that changed my career was I decided I was going to do what I loved no matter who saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me some time to build that show, but now I have a lot of viewers on all the videos that we put out, and it's a lot of fun. But I did it because I liked it, and I do the same thing with the stuff that I write. I do this in my personal life. The other videos that I have out there on other, non-work related topics, I don't care how many people see them. I didn't do them for them. I did them for me because I wanted to share or commemorate my knowledge or, whatever the topic is. And for me, that's definitely been an important piece. But it all comes back to this technology being available to us now in ways that, blogging is simpler, video production is simpler.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn on and use PowerPoint to record your presentation, and poof, you've got a video. There's simpler ways now to create artifacts of your knowledge and use them in your career, help other people with them. You may think you don't have anything to share, but I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to share. Everyone knows something and has a perspective that is valuable. So don't discount yourself before you've even written something down or done your first video.
I've also had the experience that different people learn different ways. And so, there's an easy, I think, mistake to sort of rank written word versus audio only versus video as somehow more superior. I'm a reader by nature because I can control the reading speed better. I read quickly, and I find it a more efficient way to learn than any other medium. But that's me. Different people consume information in different ways. So the fact that you can make things in different forms as well is beneficial for different audiences.
I completely agree. And it's funny. I love producing video and I like being on-air talent, but I don't actually learn that way.
Right.
And you'll probably see that in some of my videos in the sense that, I tend to frame things or give context to a topic and then tell people to go take the micro, learning or read the blog post, because that's actually how I learn. I definitely read very quickly. I'm very lucky that that's something that my mother invested in me with, and it has enabled my career, frankly, my reading capability and my reading comprehension. I can read it once and remember it. And so I learn very effectively that way. But I'm always sharing this with trainers. So many folks know, and if you don't know, I run the Microsoft 365 Worldwide Champions Program. And this is the place where you can come and learn about driving adoption of Microsoft services. We recently expanded it to be beyond collaboration to include business process automation, security, and other things. And we talk there about best practices in adoption and training. And we talk about learning modalities, and that's what you're referring to. Everyone's has a different learning modality. And if you're going to be a trainer, then you need to make sure that you have the written element, the visual element, some hands-on capabilities, because everybody learns differently. And that can be a little complicated sometimes, but we definitely kept that in mind as we launched Learning Pathways, for instance, M365 Learning Pathways that we have. Because it's so important to hit people where they are and use those things. And you brought up a really interesting point. Podcasts are huge. For people who aren't comfortable being on camera, I think it's a fantastic thing to do a podcast. And I've had so many people tell me all of the videos I do also have a podcast element to it. But I've had so many people tell me, well, I listen to you while I'm walking. Right. And, or, they're listening in their car, for instance, where, because they like to listen to the information. They don't really need the video part.
Right.
And I try to keep that in mind as I produce all of the different content that I do, so it can be consumed both ways. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Depends on the topic, right? But
you're also battling that partial attention model. Like, I'm hoping if you're listening to my podcast while you're driving's taking priority.
Yes.
Killing listeners, not good for business.
No.
That's not the way you want to go on that.
No.
But to me, it also means you think about recaps.
Yeah.
Give people room to catch back up again if they were focused on the thing that will keep them alive. That's structuring your content so that the in that medium, it works well for partial attention versus full attention as well.
Yes. And also interruptions. I think that whether you are a technology professional, a manager in a team, someone producing a virtual event, whatever your role may be out there right now, it's important that you factor in everything you do, the fact that people will get interrupted, right? if you're participating in this virtual event right now, you may get interrupted, right? You may put us on pause for a second and come back and start again, or make sure to go back to the video on demand. We talk about this all the time because a content life cycle is now even more important than it was before. If I produce a meeting at work, I make sure to record that meeting in Teams. Teams will give me that recording. I make sure to send that out, that people have it, or I'll note it right in the chat. Making sure that, and if you're doing a formal event, really thinking about where are people going to consume this information. Like in this event, we're going to go to the website and the information, will be there. People can reconsume any of the sessions that were available. But you need to think about the fact that it's more likely than not that someone will get interrupted in an hour time span than they were before, when you physically had them in the room. If only because they might want to pause you so they can go get more coffee, right? And or deal with the fact that the dog is barking, right? We're not in control of our environment in the same way that we used to be. At least I'm not. Because my dog is the master of my neighborhood and wants to bark at everything.
Oh yeah, no, the dog definitely knows who's in charge of what.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate both the empathy and the humility around your content is probably more important to you than just about anybody else. So, accepting that basic statement that people are only going to focus on your stuff so much.
Right.
But at least the empathy to say, that's okay. You can, here's the TLDR. You can consume this partially. I'm only trying to inspire you to look to this next thing or to dig further into that.
Right. And that's enough. To be able to take it in manageable chunks. I'm a huge fan of microlearning. And for anybody out there who hasn't heard TLDR yet, too long, don't read. We use it a lot inside Microsoft to summarize. And this is actually great communication methodology. If I'm going to write to my leadership or even my own team, what is it that I'm saying? You'll find these really long chats or super long emails or even really long blog posts that you have to really dig through to understand what's happening. I'm a fan of headers and bullet points. Put the thing at the top. If I'm the leader that only has a minute to glance through it, what is the one thing I need to know? And then structure it such that the summary and greater discussion is below that. I do feel like many people haven't adjusted their writing styles for the current environment and the amount of interactions that we have. So I really appreciate it when people do the TLDR. They summarize at the very top what I need to know, and then I can dig down into the details that are well organized with some more bullet points, as I go through reading that. And please do that in your chats to me. If you're sending me a chat on the Microsoft Tech community or in general, even in LinkedIn, it really helps me, go through that, because people, of course, can connect to me on LinkedIn. If you want to follow the work that we're doing in this space, that's probably the best place to do it. I'm, of course, on Twitter. But you will get more of my personal views on Twitter. So if you just want the work stuff, follow me on LinkedIn. And if you want to reach out, please do. But, I think a lot of people are getting a lot of communication, and it's about how do we take that in and have a workflow around it and have it be meaningful. So yeah, I don't expect that people are going to listen to my whole video in one shot. Sure. I think they're going to stop and start, and that's great. And it's my job to make sure that they can come back in and that they can see in the description where they really need to go if they want to go dig in and learn more. Like, I need to plan it out a little bit for
Sure. Folks. Well, I appreciate that TLDR is, here is my conclusion. If you accept my conclusion, you can move on.
That's right.
But if you question that conclusion or you want to know why, the why is the rest of that content.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting to think that the thing that's happened in this past year is this attention economy. We've been talking about it for years, that bit by bit our attention has become more and more valuable because it's become so scarce.
Right.
But this is the year that amplified that.
Oh, absolutely.
Massive.
Your attention is finite.
Mm-hmm.
Make choices about who and where you put it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that, this idea of I don't necessarily embrace the idea of work-life balance. I like the new terminology, work-life harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I happen to love what I do. So I might work more than someone else who has a different relationship with their professional career at any moment in time. I haven't always loved my job. And so and also there are things that happen in my family. You know, I'm a caregiver to lots of folks and things of that nature that take my time sometimes during work hours. And so I seek work-life harmony. And so where my attention is going at any time is very important. And of course, you know, we think about our impact. How am I impacting people in home, at work? And how can I make sure that the time I'm giving to my work is meaningful, right? I'm not the kind of person that can do something just because I need to do it. It needs to be meaningful to me. And you know, I've earned that privilege over the course of a 30-year career that I get to do mostly meaningful work now. I didn't always. So if you're out there and you feel like the stuff you're doing isn't meaningful, then, you know, you can begin to carve time out, right, from a professional development perspective, and do, even if it's a volunteer project, right, do something that's meaningful so that you feel like even in this situation, your work and your digital life is giving back to you. I very much feel like my digital life gives back to me. It feeds me energy, and it feeds me purpose, and it feeds me gratitude. And so I feel like this is an opportunity for all of us to take a look and make sure that we are being equally supported by our digital lives. And then, you know, what do I do with that privilege, right? How do I help others? And that's another conversation. But you know, this is a great time to be in this business. It's very stressful, but there's so much opportunity in these different areas. You know, what's happening in the Teams platform, what we can do now with Teams and Power Platform and business processes, and the innovation we can drive there is really fun. And, you know, I talked about that a little bit in what's new in Teams, but there's a lot of information out there about Teams and Power Platform now. And, you know, I find building those solutions really fun because I actually like to build things. I'm a technical person. Some folks don't know that, but so I really like that. And, you know, it's kind of like tinkering with the, you know, the science kit that my mom gave me when I was a kid, right? And all the little Lincoln Lego blocks and stuff like that. Yeah. I love to build stuff. So
when I look at this new generation of tools, and Teams is part of that, certainly Power Platform, it reminds me of an earlier time in computing where there were fewer professional programmers and far more domain experts that did some coding on the side, and that became the more important thing. You know, we talk about no code, low code, and I'm not a big fan of this citizen developer term, but I do like the idea that domain expert can pick up a set of tools they understand and make things that make other people productive.
Absolutely.
Perhaps they make themselves productive first, but ultimately it makes others productive as well.
I agree with that latter part of your statement. And this is the whole heart of being a champion. We used to call them power users. That term is still out there to some extent. I understand, you know, where the citizen developer term comes from. I'm not sure I've reconciled myself to it yet either. It's a little bit new. But what I do know is there's no one who understands a business process more than the business user who is closest to it. And if I can put tools in the hands of that business user and have them, with governance and appropriate IT policy, build something that improves that, it's going to be better than if I hired an external consultant necessarily and had them go through identifying it. Like, that's a good thing too, but really empowering people who are close to the business process itself. I am a huge fan of that. Probably because I used to be that person, right? You know, I started out in legal technology, you know, 25, 30 years ago now. And, you know, I was a legal secretary and I was a paralegal. And so I understood what it meant to do pleadings and filings and having to manage cases and all of these things. So I was close to the data and the processes that I ultimately ended up working on when I went to go work for a partner. And so I think that those folks are going to be more and more important. And so if you're a customer that's out there listening and you have that domain expertise in your organization, technology can be the thing that makes your knowledge sing and help others, right? And that's how I always used it. You know, when I first started using SharePoint, I didn't have a technical role at that time. I worked in the IT department for Skechers, the shoe company, and they had this process that was on paper and seemed a little crazy. And this was, a way long time ago now, 15 years ago now. And started, using the technology to solve that problem. So I like problem solvers. And if I can give some tech to people to make them better problem solvers, then it's a win-win.
Well, and I do think that anybody listening to this here, we were all into problem solving. That's how we ended up here.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think we were now confronted with an opportunity to have even more people as part of this group to be pulled into our community that are a different kind of problem solver, that have a different set of skills as well, and include them and be able to help them with governance and help them make things that other people are going to be able to use and be able to sustain them in an unusual environment.
Absolutely. And I didn't mean to step on you there, but one thing I just wanted to say too is if you're a professional IT person and these folks who are enthusiastic about technology in your organization, sometimes there can be some struggle between professional IT folks and citizen developers or these business users who are enthusiastic about technology. My advice is to embrace those folks. They are going to bring fresh ideas into your world and sometimes a much needed sense of enthusiasm. Some of us in IT, when we've been around a long time, we can get a little bit cynical and a little bit tired.
Yeah.
And so I encourage you to build an internal community of people that includes those business users and your IT professionals. You can't drive collaboration unless you can be collaborative as a person. Right? Open the doors, meet these other folks, and help them understand why IT policies and governance is important, right? We need to make sure that there's just not confusion in an enterprise with different solutions just popping up from everywhere. But we need to let the reins out a little bit.
Yeah,
and
you
let
can't
those
tie it completely down.
Right. You have to open those doors a little bit because this ties to a much bigger idea. And the idea is about diversity. Diversity is a little bit of an overused word nowadays in our business, and I feel like it's being misinterpreted sometimes. But it's important to have diversity not only of ethnicity and background, but of thought, of different approaches to solving problems. How the power user in your accounting department is going to solve the issue about reporting and how I would solve it as an IT professional with 30 years of experience is quite different. Yes. And I might be missing some innovation there because I'm very tied to the way we've always done this. We've always done accounting reporting a certain way, right?
Also, I think that someone with that kind of experience, and I'm certainly in that boat, has some scar tissue of past issues that may or may not be relevant anymore.
That's right.
So, you can call them wisdom, but they might also be holding you back.
Yeah, and it also might be trauma. I definitely have scar tissue and past trauma from projects in my history that you have to shake it off sometimes. Yeah. But I want to encourage people to have this diversity of thought, diversity of approach. It doesn't mean throwing best practices out the window. It means allowing them room to breathe, to bring in new ideas, to listen to your business users who will tell you their problem, right? They really want a partner because it's not their job to be technologists, right? Yeah. I'm a technologist. They're a business user. We need to work together so that we can actually transform the businesses. And now more than ever, we have to listen to each other. I think we could practice that skill here in the technology sector, and maybe other people can see it too.
Karuana, I think we're just about out of time, but I very much enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you. Well, I certainly hope other people enjoyed it as well. This is super fun for me. I get to show up with my bling and have a conversation about things I love to talk about. But everybody should go ahead and get your holiday background. Go visit the Teams blog, ak.ms Teams blog. You'll see my blog post out there. You can get your own holiday background, which will be fun. And, visit adoption.microsoft.com. We have so much there to help people. I want folks to know they're not in it alone. We are there to help them. And really appreciate everyone here at the conference and all the sponsors for making this possible. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy your workshops, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Bye-bye.